Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole and I am the host of the podcast One Strong Hand. Again, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, feel free to check out the other videos or podcasts that I have available. Today I wanted to talk about 5 shifts to reframe how you care for your mental health, and I think it's very important. Mental health is important at all times, whether it's, whether you're having a good day, a bad day, whether good things are happening, whether bad things are happening. Mental health is very important because it keeps you balanced. And with, your physical health, your spiritual health, the mental health always comes forth in front because that is the direct correlation to all of your health, and so you want to make sure that you're attending to that as much as possible. So in this space, we often talk about simple habits that can support mental health, but sometimes true growth comes from deeper shifts in the way that we think and in the way that we live. And so it's very important to have those small little habits that you can add or implement into your life. Do things gradually. I think one thing that I've learned in my life is that when I start small on the habits that I'm trying to implement into my life, waking up early, working out, making sure I'm drinking enough water, I actually have been starting to set alarms for things. So then that way I can keep track. And it gives me a nice little reminder. And pretty soon I won't need an alarm because everything will kind of come into play and be automatic and be on autopilot. Setting your alarm, writing down little notes throughout the day, just to kind of keep you reminded and refreshed about, okay, let me go ahead and start supporting my mental health by starting with small habits. So I want to share 5 shifts that can help reframe the way you care for your mind and your spirit. Of course, these are not quick fixes, but just practices that you can implement and invite yourself to look inward, create lasting change, so on and so forth. So the 5 that we'll explore today are embracing vulnerability, practicing forgiveness, redefining success, letting go of comparison, and learning the art of stillness. Let's begin. Embracing vulnerability is often seen as a weakness. Vulnerability in general, I think the social aspect and the world that we live in, vulnerability can often be seen as a weakness. But it's really honestly a doorway to connection. When you're vulnerable, you're allowing yourself to be open. You're trusting yourself in the process of being vulnerable. And I used to have a difficult time with being open and being vulnerable because of, past experiences of maybe being hurt, and someone would take my words and twist it and throw it back at me or whatever the case may be. And so being vulnerable takes a lot of strength, and being open about how you feel, what you need, and even what you struggle with. It really allows others to meet you with authenticity. And when you have people that you can meet with authenticity, again, it helps the door open to being vulnerable. You kind of instill trust in other people and in yourself. And it takes a lot of practice, to be able to allow yourself to be open and allow yourself to be vulnerable. It can be very difficult. Learning to be vulnerable is like taking the armor off. Learning to take the armor off for me that I've carried for years and letting people see the real me, even if it was like messy at times. What I found was not rejection, but deeper relationships, especially for people that instilled trust in me and I instilled trust in them. And when you have that mutual trust, you're able to form those deeper relationships. And so it's taken me a long time to get to this point of learning how to rethink and reshape my shift when it comes to my thought process of trust and vulnerability and allowing myself to be open. And you're going to come across those people to where you are vulnerable and they might take what it is that you said and flip it back and throw it at you. But then you have to understand that not everyone is going to operate in that way. You can't also dictate those future relationships based off of what you've been through in the past. And so you may have been hurt and you may have been vulnerable to the people that hurt you in the past, but not everyone is going to operate in that way. And so it does take a lot of strength. It does take a lot of trust, and it takes a lot of reflection at the same time. It's really about questioning and asking yourself, like, where in your life are you hiding behind your strength? And what would it look like to be more open about what you're really experiencing? Number 2, practicing forgiveness. Practicing forgiveness. Boy, so practicing forgiveness for me was very, very tough growing up. I want to say at least until recent. And not even practicing forgiveness just with other people, but practicing forgiveness within myself. And forgiving myself for my past mistakes, my self-deprecation, my part in where I may have hurt other people. It's really about not only forgiving other people, but forgiving yourself, because you play a lot, or you have a lot of roles in other people's lives. And sometimes, you may treat people a certain way, you may respond in a certain way, you may respond to yourself in a certain way. It's really about practicing forgiveness as a whole. And holding on to resentment keeps us, tied to the past. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what hurt us, but it's about releasing ourselves and the weight of it. And so I think too, that's kind of where it gets misconstrued, is that people think forgiveness is, or some people think forgiveness is an excuse to what has hurt us or what we've done to hurt other people, whatever the case may be. But forgiveness is really, it's tied to your ability to move forward and to still recognize your patterns and being able to heal those patterns. And so when I began practicing forgiveness, I noticed more peace and less bitterness. And even, for instance, with my experience and like my family dynamic, I had to do a lot of forgiveness when it came to our situation as a whole, and what we've been through. And so there was someone in our lives, that recently passed away, and I had to learn how to forgive that person, even though what that person did was very detrimental to our mental health and to our physical health. It takes a lot of strength, because I think sometimes we feel like we have more power when we don't forgive, but in retrospect, it's actually damaging to you. That's not to say like you need to forgive right away. Like, take your time, do what you need to do to process what it is that you need to process, but also understand that forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is for you. It's not really for the other person. Now, granted, if you directly hurt somebody, that's different. But if someone affects you and they hurt you, it takes a lot of strength, and it takes a lot of separation from the ego when you are like, you know what, I forgive you, but I forgive you for myself, because I don't want to hang on to this resentment or this hatred or whatever feelings you're feeling. You don't want to hang on to that, because it actually does affect your health. I think when I began practicing forgiveness, it was less about the other person and more about giving myself that freedom from those thoughts and from those emotions, because you don't want to have those emotions and those thoughts dormant within your body. Like I said, it truly does affect your physical health. Like, if you find that you are just constantly thinking about what the person did and their actions, granted, they were not right, and forgiveness is not excusing them for it, but if you are constantly thinking about it, like, your body is affected. The body will respond in certain ways. And so that's why I said, when it comes to mental health, physical health, and spiritual health, they are all correlated with one another. I often like to ask myself these questions, like, who or what am I still holding resentment towards? And what would forgiveness for them and even for myself make possible? And it's really important to ask yourself those questions, because I think it does help with analyzing either past traumas, past situations, whatever the case may be. It really does assist in how you move forward in your path and in your journey and in your healing. Number 3, redefining success. We're often handed definitions of success, whether it be career titles, money, achievements, but success that isn't personally meaningful often leaves us feeling empty. And I had talked about in one of last week's episodes about how you have to live with intention and learning how to not only make goals for yourself, but what are the intention behind your goals and what is your why? For me, success shifted from recognition to authenticity. And so once I started tapping more into my YouTube like I am now, when I had started my YouTube a couple of months ago, it was more so, it felt as if I was doing it for recognition, as opposed to just being who I am and just letting myself flow through the process. And that's another thing of redefining success. I was doing it, granted, I enjoyed doing it for me. I didn't feel like I was living in my authenticity, because it felt like I was doing a lot of what I was doing to get more views or to get more likes or to get more subscribers. And it's like, well, people are going to automatically attract to you based off of their interest and what it is that you're offering and what it is that you are showing through your interest. I've learned that I have to show up and be myself and be my authentic self, especially because I have this podcast that I'm trying to get out into the world and whatnot. My podcast is based on resilience and self-care and disability advocacy. And so when I kind of put myself in that position of showcasing myself and my journey and my disability and the things that I've been through and all of the surgeries I've had, throughout my life, naturally, people, whoever is interested or wants to come to the channel, they're going to find something that resonates with them. And so that is very important, is learning how to do things from recognition to authenticity. And that's what redefining success is asking for or requesting of you. Number 4, letting go of comparison. This one has been extremely, extremely tough for me because growing up, I would compare myself a lot and often. I would compare myself to friends, to family, to relationships. Like, it was just a lot of things I was comparing myself to. And also just people on the internet. I think in the age of social media, we have a hard time with differentiating between what's real and what's fake sometimes. And so not everyone's lives on social media is what they say it is. And so I think when it comes to the age of social media, you have to understand that everyone's path is different. I mean, even on social media or off social media, everyone's path is different, and you can't compare yourself to what is not meant for you. Now, granted, you can have, inspiration, people that you may look up to, whether in social media or in real life. You can have inspiration, you can have aspirations, you can have people that are your mentors, and that's great. But I think when it comes to comparison is the thief of joy. And when you are comparing yourself to others, you're not allowing yourself to enjoy the moment that you're currently in the journey of you getting to where it is that you want to get to. And so when we measure ourselves against others, we ignore the uniqueness of, our own path. And again, social media makes this especially challenging. I only compare myself to how I used to be and the things I used to do, the things I used to say, and the things I used to indulge in. I have learned how to not allow, social media or other people's lives affect what it is that I'm doing, because my journey is not their journey and vice versa. Their journey is not my journey. Gratitude also shifted my attention of what I already had. And so even recently, like, I walked around my apartment and I was just grateful that I was like, wow, I'm here. Up until this point, I had always wanted my own apartment, nice little balcony, washer and dryer in the unit. And so it was like a lot of things that I started basically being grateful for. And like, you know what? I don't need to, have any type of comparison to anybody. People's situation behind their face, behind the screen, could be completely different than what I'm looking at or what they're presenting to me. And so just learning how to be grateful, even if you are not where you want to be in this very moment. That is one thing that I've learned to do, is just be grateful and show my gratitude to help me shift my attention to what I already have. This journey of life and the path is not a one size fits all. There's billions of people on the planet. You're not going to have what they have. Again, you could have inspirations, you could have aspirations, but comparing yourself doesn't make sense when everyone has their own thing going on, And so just learning how to shift from shifting from comparison to more self-compassion. Number 5, the art of stillness. The art of stillness has been something that I wouldn't say I struggle with, but definitely over my years of meditating, has been an ebb and flow, or a roller coaster ride of learning how to be still and then getting what they call monkey brain, which is when you're like all over the place when you're trying to be still. It's okay to be quiet sometimes. You don't have to always be doing something. You don't have to, you don't have to do anything. Sometimes just being still is the most powerful thing you could do, because you're able to tap into yourself and tune into yourself and tune into what it is that you need in that very moment. Stillness, intentional pauses, silence, and rest, it gives the mind space to recover and rest, especially from everyday life. Whether it's from your schedule, whether it's from your family, whether it's from even yourself, if you're overthinking, when you live in stillness and just give yourself a couple of minutes, you do not have to meditate for 45 minutes. I used to learn how to, or I used to know how to meditate for at least 45 minutes, literally sitting in stillness for 45 minutes. How I did it, I don't know. And eventually I'll learn how to get back to that point. But now I just do a good 10, 15 minutes and I'm okay. I allow myself to take whatever it is I need in that moment and take with me throughout the day or the rest of the week, whichever time framing. But just learning how to do it for a couple of minutes. I think sometimes we're always in a rush to do so much and do other things and get back to what it is that we were doing. Learning how to just give yourself that peace of mind. Your mind needs it, your brain needs it, especially in everyday life. And so stillness can definitely feel uncomfortable because, again, going back to that monkey brain or feeling like you're just all over the place, it can feel uncomfortable, but it could also feel unproductive because you're like, okay, well, I'm not doing anything. Well, it's like, that's the point. You're not supposed to do anything in those moments. Allow yourself to just sit and to be. Over time, becomes a powerful tool for clarity and for calmness, but it takes practice. And like I said at the beginning, having those habits really do come into play when you are doing it, every few days, every day, however, whatever time frame is best for you. But when you form habits, I forgot, there was something that I read where it said, I think it takes maybe like a week to create a habit. And then it takes, I think, like 10 days or 20, I think it's like 10 days for it to become kind of second nature. And so when you are doing things on a daily basis or even, every other day that instills or implements some type of calm and stillness, especially when it comes to learning the art of stillness, that helps when you're forming it as a habit. And so eventually it won't become uncomfortable or won't become unproductive. Your brain does not have to be productive all the time. I think in society, they have framed unproductivity or the lack of productivity as being, lazy or, feeling like you just have to do something. You don't have to do anything. So where in your life can you create a pocket of stillness, even 5 minutes a day, to simply sit, breathe, and be? Those are most important, especially in everyday life. When you're doing multiple things, when you're interacting with multiple people, you need a break. You need a moment. Today we explored 5 shifts, to reframe mental health: embracing vulnerability, practicing forgiveness, redefining success, letting go of comparison, and learning stillness. Again, your presence requires your presence, and you need to recharge your presence in any way necessary. And you don't need to do all of them at once, of course. It's just really just taking your time and learning how to form a habit, like I had stated. But choose one that speaks to you most and begin there. So that was it for today's episode. But before we leave, you already know I got to do my affirmation cards. So I'm not going to shuffle these cards. What I've done is the ones that I've already used, I just put them at the bottom. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to keep shuffling because I swear every time I shuffle, I get the same cards. We're not doing that. We're just going to pick from the top. Today's card is Life Flow. I surrender to the natural rhythm of the universe, gracefully flowing towards the realization of my success. With unwavering trust, I embrace the unfolding of my journey, knowing that every twist and turn is purposeful and leads me closer to my desired destination. I love that card. That's such a good one. Wow. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining and for giving me your time and giving yourself this time. And until next time, may you find peace in this upcoming week. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.